All right, greetings everyone and welcome to another video. And today we're starting the week off hot because guess what? Apparently JP has decided to just go all out releasing a bunch of characters all at once. And that's not just like it this week. There's actually a ton of other stuff too to talk about. So without wasting too much time, let's get into it. All right, so next up, looks like a story quest will be added, Chapter 7, Part 1. No actual preview for this one. This might have something to do with a new character being coming, sure, why not, on February 1st. I mean, like, the story is kind of starting to ramp up. It feels like a bit towards maybe a new major story character, and we have gotten a fair drop of another story stuff, so maybe this is just kind of leading into that for February, but still worth mentioning. All right, so let's get into talking about something absolutely awesome that I have been waiting for a while. And it's not just Kitone today. Kitone will get a new version. Another story version is coming, and she is a dark fist weapon. We'll talk a little bit more about her in a second. But not only her, we also are getting Wotv Veritas, also known as Folka, for people who have been playing FFBE. Not any kind of a spoiler there. But this is a major thing for me because Wotv Veritas is my favorite of the Veritas. I have been waiting, I like the design of all of the Veritases essentially, but water is kind of my favorite element, and I liked her back in FFBE, but she was only like a 4-star character back originally in FFBE, which made her kind of difficult to really truly get too much appreciated. And out of Volka was a much better character because she was actually more like, she was released as a 5-star base that went up to 6-star and 7 and eventually, and moving on. But yeah, Folka, her Wotv Veritas, I'm incredibly excited for. But yeah, let's go through this. So first off, new Dark Kitone is a fist-based character, which is pretty interesting because this Dark is just a strong element, and I still think that strike resistance is one of the things that's lacking sometimes in other teams. And like, this is potentially really good for Dark, and it's also potentially really good for just strike-based teams. I mean, it's a low 70 cost. You are strike character, and Shadowlynx was not any kind of like bad for any reason at all. She was actually a great PvP character. But and that essentially tells me that we can probably see Kitone being fairly strong, and maybe a really big thing for just fist-based teams to getting under the cost requirement in cost limited style events. So apologies, I haven't had a huge amount of time to translate this, so I'm going to be using a little bit of help here. So let's talk about Limit Burst first of all. J-Show Shot, which is probably not the final thing. Right, Shadow, maybe. 2 consecutive damages large up to 2 targets and increase the speed at which CT is accumulated. So basically, you get selected to its single target, which is pretty nice. It has good range on it, and you're also getting haste off of it, which is generally pretty good. People like speed in this game, and speed is still kind of the king stat. So that's quite a good thing to see on this ability. Second ability, after removing all enhancements for up to 2 targets, deal medium damage. When the target becomes incapacitated, give a CT increase small up to 1 target. So another multi-select ability that is single target, closer range. It's really going to depend a lot to me on essentially how like good this character is at surviving. Looking at her sub-jobs of Knight and Nightblade, I'm not super convinced about it at the moment, but since we haven't seen the entire kit, also makes it difficult to judge. Next up is, and I'm not going to translate this name because when it goes through Google, it ends up being Suction Stance, which just isn't correct. Increases own hit rate for 3 turns Gives an effect that absorbs part of the damage is HP dealt. So in other words, your abilities end up recovering HP for this character. Adds additional damage activation when taking damage from attack ability, which is interesting. That might be a mistranslation. It's either essentially a Noctis style secondary hit that goes off of her own, but the way that I'm reading it right now is basically when she gets hit, it will fire an attack off at an opponent. Now, again, I'm not super confident in this because I haven't had a lot of time, but it gives you an idea that she has a secondary hit attack that can be activated through some method. No chain effect, and it also increases own CT. So basically, new Shadow, or not Shadow Links, Kitone. I hope I haven't said that before incorrectly, but Kitone, new version of Kitone is a very tempo-based strike damage character with dark elemental attacks. I think that for limited cost and everything, she looks pretty damn interesting, but of course we need to see, like, HP absorption is particularly pretty good, but can she actually leverage it and survive long enough, and does it matter? She's just an evade character. Taking damage isn't a super big fear, but she's going to need some survivability to really make use of this. And we'll have to wait and see. But AP acquisition is one thing that I've noted here, which means that she should be pretty self-reliant. All right, next up is Folka, and Folka will be important to talk about a little bit later. So first off, her first ability, you will note that this is a 100 cost character, Blade Soul, and White Mage, which is basically she's a mage type character, magical damage dealing, potentially with some interesting slash capabilities. And I do believe that there is something a little bit different with this character's acquisition. Her medals are not acquired through the same way as Veritas. This time it's using arena medals. So that'll be interesting to see how they have balanced the cost for that, and whether this is based on feedback or something from the JP player base. All right, first ability is a fog, I guess. So it's a double activation ability, magic dependent damage, medium to a large diamond AoE. After reducing water attribute resistance of targets within range, apply also status effects of poison and paralysis to targets for 3 turns, and activates a secondary ability increasing ally CT. Now it is a minimal style secondary CT increase, but not bad for tempo for a secondary character to essentially get this. As for the AoE attack, I mean, depends on what the numbers are and the percentages, but a good water damage enabler. And as for her other ability, Elemental Fort, increase all attribute resistance, as well as defense and spirit of targets and allies for self and allies for 3 turns. Also casts a barrier that prevents magic damage on, or reduces magic damage for self 3 times. So I have to say, I mean, I don't know if this character will be super great. She has some AoE resistance and ability, water ability, attack power up by the looks of it. I think that's just for allies, but much like Veritas was really good for wind, and I'm curious to see how good this character is. Regardless, one of my favorites, I'll be raising her regardless. There, I've said it enough times. And of course, it is a vision card week, so we will get a new holo vision card. It's a 60 cost vision card with a limited effect for bows, guns, fists, or dagger. And honestly, just taking a look at that, there's a lot of possibility for this being really good for another fist type elemental, oh my goodness, fist characters. There, we got it out eventually. All right, as for what you will get on this, also I want to shout out the artwork, which is really cool, of Lynx and Kitone fighting and looking really awesome, but also in the little bubble here, you got the 2 young versions being friends. Aw, man. Damn you, Wotv. Alright. The party ability is increasing human killer and accuracy during physical attacks. For maxing out the VC, you get reaction prevention rate, and increases critical damage for guild battle only. As for the unit that equips this, they will get attack up and critical up as well. As for the guild battle, you will also get water or dark attribute attack up by 2. So a pretty strong looking mission card for guild battles for both water and dark. I'd say that overall, if we're going to say anything here, I think that Strike wins this because Kitone plus 2p might be a really, really insane evasion combination that's just really good. I mean, throw in any other fist user you want in that party, Bridalaya, for example, and you might just be cooking. As for just elemental combinations, there's a lot of different stuff you could throw in. Thankfully, I think it's pretty well wide range for what kind of parties could work with this. But I actually really like this vision card, and I mean, I like the water element, so maybe it's not saying too much. All right, continuing on, we've already talked about this before, about characters getting upgrades. I believe I mentioned it during my producer live letter video. Now I'm starting to wonder if I actually did do that earlier in the month. I just need to pull this up for a second, just make sure. Not making a liar. Eliza, Niv, and Luardo will be getting an upgrade limit burst. But what's interesting here is this. Say hello to Wind Veritas getting his dream enhancement. Wind Veritas will now go up to 140. You can obtain... looks like more detail. What's also interesting about this is in the news, apparently there's no mention of any kind of limit burst upgrade, which is incredibly disappointing to me because I was really hoping that Wind Veritas would get a limit burst. It could still happen, but it's looking less and less unlikely at this point. All right, as for the wave battle for bow and ninja blade will be getting upgraded. This is pretty common at this point for this. And yeah, you will just be able to fully go hardcore on the older ones, so people who weren't be able to do that, you'll be able to do that easier now, and the more difficult one will be unlocked for upgrading those weapons. Speaking of though, of that kind of upgradey, we have a new weapon for Kitone, a new fist. It'll be interesting to see how damage dealy it can potentially get up to, or limit burst farming, which is pretty standard at this point. And the last thing to mention before we finish off this video, which is to do with, hey, guess what? Kitone, just like Shadow Links, will be coming in a paid bundle and will probably be the exact same price if I had to guess, which that's what you came here for. Shadow Links and Kitone will probably be the same cost from the same content. So yeah, we can expect the exact same price here. But I mean, for people who are looking for low tier costs and went on 2P, this might be really a crazy good combination. Interesting to see. Needless to say, I think that this coming update this week was a lot of content, and can't wait to see what all of this stuff ends up being when everything's said and done. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and see you later. Oh yeah, you made it to the end of the video, so I'll give you a little bit of a bonus. Thinking of streaming Pal World tonight. We'll see. Take care.